Welcome back. In the previous lectures, we have discussed the basics of DC-DC converters. Then we have gone into the details of buck converter. Then we have also seen boost converter, including the design. Now we will see the third category, which is the buck boost converter. Okay. So unlike a buck, what was a buck converter? That was a converter whose output voltage was less than the input voltage. In a way, it was a step down kind of a DC transformer. Whereas boost converter, the output voltage was more than the input voltage. So it was analogous to a step up DC transformer. Whereas a buck boost is a more versatile converter, by which I mean that it will be able to generate a output voltage either less than or more than the input voltage. Okay, depending on the duty ratio, the output voltage may be less than, it may be equal to, or it may be more than the input voltage. But it will have a small glitch, which is the output voltage polarity will be reversed, which this will be clear to you once we go through the lecture. So let's get started. So this is the expected lecture outcomes. After successful completion of the lecture, the students will be able to describe the working of a buck boost converter, and you will be able to derive the voltage gain. Then you will be able to explain the waveforms of voltages and currents, relevant waveforms of this converter. Also, you will be able to design a buck boost converter based on the user requirements. We have seen in the previous lectures, we have seen some the basic lectures, we have seen some connection rules, and if you follow that connection rules religiously, then you will be ending up in three configurations. The first one was buck, we have seen that. The second one was boost, that also we have seen. The third topology is the buck boost converter, and which is what you are seeing just now. See, this is a throw 1, throw 2, and this is the SP DT switch. This is the pole. Now see, a pole is connected to an inductor, which means the current through the inductor which is flowing into the pole is never interrupted. Either it is connected to T1 or it is connected to T2. So it is never open circuited. Similarly, since the voltage source is connected between T1 and T2, they are also never short circuited. See, this input voltage is never short circuited. This capacitor voltage is also never short circuited. Okay, so with that, this is a valid topology, and let's do the analysis. So the actual boost converter looks something like this. The earlier SPDT switch has been realized using a IGBT and a diode. So in that sense, this becomes the pole of the transistor. Pole of the SPDT switch. This becomes the throw 1, and this becomes the throw 2. So at throw 1, you are connected the input voltage. At throw 2, you have connected the output load with a parallel capacitor, which acts as a voltage filter. Okay. Now the pole inductor is connected to the pole, exactly as we have seen in the previous slide. So the switch is in series with the input source, which is in series with the diode, and then the output stage. Okay, and the inductor comes in between the switch and diode, and it is connected like this. Now this and we have marked the direction of voltage as top side positive, bottom negative. So VL is taken with this polarity, and current is taken, the conventional direction of current is taken as downwards, IL. You may choose upwards also, depending on you stick to one convention and then do the analysis. Either way, you will get the same result. So here I have taken top to down, from the pole to the ground, as the positive direction of current IL, and ID is the conventional direction of current from anode to cathode. ID is marked like this, from right to left. See, the capacitor current is marked like this, and the output current flows into the load as like this. Now what I was saying is that the output voltage will have a reverse polarity, which means unlike a buck converter or a boost converter, a buck boost converter will have output with this polarity, minus here and plus here. So if I say output is 5 volt, if you are referring with respect to this ground, then your output voltage will be minus 5 volt. Okay, so this one is negative with respect to this terminal. So whatever voltage you are getting, it will be having a negative polarity. All right. So let's move on to the analysis. So as we have done for buck or boost converter, the circuit analysis follows some assumptions which we will revisit later. In a short while, the circuit is operating in steady state, which means the waveforms are repetitive and periodic. Then the inductor current is continuous. This is on the assumption that the inductor is large enough. How large is large, we will see in a short while from now. The capacitor is large, again another assumption which we will revisit later, so that the output voltage is held constant at V0. Okay. Then the switching period is Ts, duty ratio is D, then the switch is on for dTs period, and for the rest of the time, which is 1 minus D into Ts, the switch is open. Okay. Then the components are ideal. The inductor, the capacitor, the switches, diodes, everything are ideal. This makes efficiency equal to 100, which is also not true. Efficiency will be less than 100. But for the time being, let's do the analysis with ideal components. So the buck boost converter with the switch closed, which is closed from 0 to dTs in a switching period until dTs, the switch is closed. When the switch is closed, you see the switch is closed here. The positive of the voltage comes here. See, the positive terminal comes directly here. Okay, and the diode becomes open circuited. So that's why it is shown as open here. Now what happens? You are not short circuiting the source. The source is short circuited. It's not short circuited. It is connected in parallel to a inductor only, which means the source will not experience a short circuit. Now, how have we done the analysis? We have used volt second balance across the inductor of the circuit. Same thing we will do. So when the switch is closed, what is the inductor voltage? If this is the path we are talking about. Write the Kirchhoff's voltage law here. So we see the direction of the voltage. So it is minus VL will be equal to 0. There are no other voltage sources, which means your inductor voltage is same as the input voltage. This is the result we will use. When the switch is closed, the inductor voltage is same as the input voltage. Now, what will happen to the inductor voltage and current that we have seen? What we have seen? We have found that when the switch is closed, inductor voltage is same as the input voltage. So if I plot along the time axis, time. So let this be the one switching cycle Ts, of which the switch is on for a period called dTs. Okay. So what happens is that if this is the inductor voltage and if this is the inductor current, inductor voltage is equal to input voltage. So this is Vn until dTs. That is the time when the switch is on. Balance time, the switch is off. So when switch is on, the inductor voltage is same as the input voltage itself. Now what happens when VL is Vin is equal to L dIL by dt, the rate of change of current, or if you take this one down, it becomes Vin by L. Rate of change of current is equal to Vin by L. Vin is a positive constant, inductance is also a constant. Once the circuit is chosen, inductance is also a constant, which means the rate of change of current is positive. dIL by dt is greater than 0, which means inductor current continuously increases as t increases. So what happens is that current linearly increases. What is the slope of this straight line? If you talk about the slope, it will be Vn by L. Delta IL by delta t, delta dIL by dt is nothing but the slope which is equal to Vn by L. So current linearly rises from a value called IL minimum to a value called IL maximum. So from a value, it rises linearly with a slope equal to Vn by L and reaches the IL maximum when the switch is closed. Hope you are clear with this concept. Moving on. So what we have done just now has been taken this one. So VL is equal to Vn is equal to L di by dt. Now what is dIL by dt? Vn by L. This is what we have seen in the previous slide. What is dIL? Change in current, which is a linear change in current. So let me mark it as delta IL, the ripple current when the switch is closed. What is the time taken? The time taken is the time for which the switch is on, which is dTs is equal to Vn by So once you take this one there, this is what you get. The change in current when the switch is closed is given by V in dTs by L. So this result we will use for the calculation of the voltage gain of the converter. Similarly, the next analysis will be when the switch is open. Also, the pulse to the IGBT is taken off, the switch turns off. What happens then? Now, see that there was some current flow in the inductor like this when the switch was closed. Now, that current cannot abruptly become 0. So, it finds an alternative path for the current flow. The path is through the diode like this. Thereby, the diode is driven into forward bias and it will become closed. Switch is anyway open. Now, the source is isolated from the rest of the circuit. The source current becomes discontinuous or pulsed in a buck boost converter. Okay. Now, let us do the analysis here. Same principle we will follow. Write the Kirchhoff's voltage law along the direction of current. So, use this loop. Anyway, this loop is out of the picture. Only this much remains. Okay. So, again you will find that your inductor voltage is equal to the output voltage. Now, there might be, some of you might feel a contradiction. We have learned that the average inductor voltage must be 0. In the previous two classes of converters, buck and boost, we have seen that if the inductor voltage was positive when the switch is closed, it would be negative when the switch is open. But here we are seeing that when the switch is closed, inductor voltage is input voltage, but when switch is open, inductor voltage is output voltage. This is contradictory to what we have seen so far, because either in one portion where the switch is closed, it would be positive, then when the switch is open, it would be vice versa. Here we are getting V in and V output. This is where the relevance of the output reversal of the output voltage polarity comes into play. Though inductor voltage is equal to V0, this V0 is not a positive quantity, it is a negative quantity. Remember, I told for a buck boost converter, the output voltage has a reverse polarity. This is the way the polarity of the output will be for a buck boost converter, and this is precisely, it is because of this reason the volt second balance is not violated here. So, when the switch is closed, the voltage across the inductor is positive and equal to input voltage, and when switch is open, the voltage across the inductor must be negative, and it is negative. Though it is equal to V0, this V0 inherently is a negative quantity. So, inductor voltage balance will be valid and it will not be violated. So, what we have seen is that inductor voltage is equal to V0 is equal to L dIL by dt. Remember, though I have marked it as V0, this actually is a negative quantity. Now, dIL by dt equal to V0 by L. Again, rate of change of current is equal to a negative constant. V0 is a negative constant value. We have made an assumption that the output voltage is constant because the capacitor is large enough. So, this is a negative value, L is a constant and positive value. So, overall this term is negative. Rate of change of current is negative, which means current falls linearly with time. If we plot, now what have we plotted so far? We have seen that when the switch is on, that is dTs and up to Ts. This we have seen in the previous slides. It was equal to V in and the current was linearly rising. Now, what happens is that dIL, this one experiences V0, but V0 is not a positive quantity, V0 is a negative quantity. So, this is V0. What happens to the current? Since the rate of change of current is negative, it will fall linearly and come back to the same IL min. Okay, that is why the system has attained steady state. So, the waveforms are periodic. So, if it has started from IL min, it will come back to the same IL min. Okay, and what is the slope of this one? It would be equal to V0 by L. Though it appears it is positive, remember V0 inherently is a negative quantity. So, this slope is a negative slope. That is why the current is falling. So, if you take area 1 when the switch is closed, this area would be same as this area. Okay, that is the basis of volt second balance applied to the inductor. And this is true once the switch is in steady state. If A1 and A2 is not same, then we can say that the circuit has not attained its steady state and it is still progressing through the transient state. Once transients die out, we can be sure that your area 1 will be equal to the area 2. Okay. So, that is what is being done here. The inductor voltage is same as the output voltage, is equal to L dIL by dt. So, we get the ripple current when the switch is closed, sorry, and the switch is open, is equal to V0 by L into 1 minus dTs. How this has come? See, you see, dIL by dt is nothing but V0 by L. And what is dt? The time for which the current is falling, that is the time for which the switch is open, which is 1 minus d into Ts. And what is dIL? That is the ripple current when the switch is open. So, that is what is being shown here. You take this one there and cross multiply, you will get delta IL open is equal to V0 by L into 1 minus d Ts. This is what has been done here. Hope you are clear with this. Now, let us derive now let us see the waveform. Just I have drawn it with my pen in a little more neat manner. It is shown here. The inductor voltage is the first diagram. So, when the switch is on, it is equal to V in itself, the input voltage. When it is off, it is equal to the output voltage itself. Remember, output voltage is actually a negative quantity. Okay, and this cycle repeats. So, the current rises from a value called IL minimum. This is nothing but the IL minimum, and it rises to IL maximum linearly with a slope equal to V in by L, and then it falls linearly with a slope equal to V0 by L, and V0 being negative. So, the periodic triangular wave of the current is also seen. Now, two more waveforms has been shown similar to the boost converter which we had done in the last lecture. What is the output current? It is the diode current which splits into capacitor current, which will be ripple only. I have explained it in detail in the previous lectures. So, please, if you have doubt, please re-refer that one. And then a steady portion will flow through the output. Why steady portion? Because we have assumed V0 to be constant. V0 is constant, R is constant, then I0, which is equal to V0 by R, is also a constant. So, the diode has two components, a steady state average value which flows through the load, and the ripple part which flows through the capacitor. So, that is what is being shown here. What is the diode current? If you see the circuit, when the switch is on, diode current is 0. The diode is open, which means the diode current is 0. When the switch is on, diode current is 0. When switch is off, you see the inductor current flows through the diode, which means the diode current is 0 when the switch is on, and it is equal to IL, the inductor current, when the switch is off. So, that is what is being shown here. When the switch is on, first portion 0 to dTs, the output voltage, the diode current is 0. When the switch is off, then the diode current is same as the inductor current. So, this is IL max and this is IL minimum. Same curve what is being shown here. So, diode has a pulsed current. It has an average value which is given by ID, which is same as the average output current which flows through the load, and the ripple portion. The ripple portion is what is left when this dashed line which represents the steady state value has been dragged to x-axis. So, then the entire curve will move downwards. This is the shape of the ripple current, and this is exactly the current which flows through the capacitor, that is marked as IC. So, this much portion charge is taken out of the capacitor, and for this much portion charge is dumped into the capacitor. Again, charge is taken out and charge is dumped. And interestingly, if this is the area 1 and this is area 2, your area 1 will be equal to area 2. This is true for steady state, and this is called ampere second balance. Okay. For inductor we have used volt second balance, for capacitors we will be using ampere second balance. So, this is why the average voltage remains more or less same with some ripple. Here you will see a dip in voltage, and when charge is dumped you will see a rise in voltage, but the dip in voltage and the rise in voltage will be same. So, the net average voltage will be retained. Okay. Now, let us derive the gain. So, under steady state conditions we have learned that change in ripple when the switch is closed plus the change in ripple when the switch is open must be equal to 0 only when steady state is continued, but we have assumed that the circuit is operating in steady state. So, this has been calculated separately, you add it up equal to 0. You can cancel out these two L's, you can cancel out this Ts. So, what is left is V into D plus V0 minus d V0 is equal to 0. just if you once you take it out, d V in, take the V0 outside, d minus 1. Actually, d is a quantity which is less than 1. So, it is beneficial to write it as minus V0 into 1 minus d. Remember, the maximum value d can take is 1 and minimum value is 0. So, d is usually between 0 and 1. So, it is better to write d minus 1 as minus 1 minus d, d V in. Now, just take V0 by V in here. So, this minus becomes minus d. So, minus d by 1 minus d, and this minus sign is responsible for the voltage polarity reversal at the output. Okay. So, remember the output earlier it was for a buck converter it was just the gain was just d. For a boost converter it was 1 by 1 minus d. For a buck boost you have d by 1 minus d with a minus sign. Okay. See, when d is 0.5, when the duty ratio is 50%, the output would be V0 would be equal to V in with a reverse polarity. So, there is no transformation. For any value d less than 0.5, the system works as in buck converter mode. For any value more than 0.5, the system works in boost converter mode. Thus, just by choosing the duty ratio, you will be able to get a voltage less than the input voltage, a voltage equal to the input voltage, or a voltage more than the input voltage. So, any voltage below or above the voltage, the input voltage can be attained by a proper choice of the duty ratio d. The flip side of the circuit is that you have a reversal of the polarity at the output. So, I hope you have understood how we have calculated the voltage gain and also the operation of the circuit of the buck boost converter. Now, we have found out the equation for duty ratio. Now, what is left is that we have to design the value of the inductor and capacitors. Okay. So, let us move on and do that. So, the inductor current variation we have already seen. Inductor follows a triangular pattern for all the converters we have seen so far, which has an average value, and then this is the ripple value. This is the ripple and this is the average. So, the maximum value IL max, this value is nothing but the average plus half the ripple. Similarly, the minimum value IL min is nothing but the average minus half the ripple. So, that is what is being used. Now, we have to find out the average inductor current. So, the methodology we adopt is that the input power is same as the output power, because of the assumption we make that the components are ideal. There are no losses. So, the input power is equal to the output power, and output power is nothing but V0 I0 or is equal to V0 square by R, the load being a resistor. And we know since input power is same as the output power, V in I in is equal to V0 I0. But remember, this notation we will be using. The input current is equal to D into IL. Now, to understand this, let us go to the circuit. What is the input current with respect to inductor current? Input current is equal to, it's not voltage, it is current. Input current is equal to inductor current. Switch is closed, when the switch is closed. And what happens to the same input current when the switch is open? See, there is no path for the current to flow as the switch is open. So, the input current is 0 when switch is open. Let us go back and see. See, input current is equal to IL and it is also equal to 0 when S is open. For what duration switch is closed? It is closed for a duration of dTs. And what duration it is open? It is for 1 minus dTs. So, what is the value of average inductor current? It would be equal to, average inductor current would be equal to D times IL. Okay. Duty ratio times IL, because input current flows and it is equal to IL only for dTs times, and for 1 minus dTs times it is 0. If you take the average of this, then you will get IN is equal to D times IL. So, that principle is being used to calculate the average value of the inductor current. So, IN is equal to D times duty ratio times average inductor current. So, instead of IN, we substitute DIL, which we have just now seen. From that, we take out IL. So, V0 is what? D V in by 1 minus D the whole square. into 1 by R. If you expand, you will get the average inductor current as V in into D by R into 1 minus D the whole square. So, this is the average inductor current. Now, we have found out the average inductor current. Ripple we have already calculated. Just substitute and find out the IL max and IL min. So, IL max is average inductor current plus half the ripple. Average inductor current is this much plus ripple is V in dTs by L. Half of it, a 2 also will come in the denominator. Similarly, IL minimum is IL minus delta IL by 2. So, instead of this plus sign here, you will have a minus sign. So, that is the only difference. So, this is the maximum, the range in which inductor current will vary. From IL minimum, linearly it will rise to IL maximum. And these two values are known now. And they are function of the input voltage, they are function of the output voltage because D comes here, they are function of the load and also switching frequency. So, all of them will influence the value of the current through the inductor. Okay. Now, to design an inductor, we need to calculate the critical inductance. So, at critical inductance, this I have explained in detail in the buck converter slide. So, if you are not familiar with that, please refer that. Now, IL minimum must be equal to 0 at the boundary condition, that is boundary between continuous and discontinuous. So, IL minimum we have calculated in the previous slide, equate it to 0, okay, and then rearrange, you will get the critical inductance value as 1 minus D the whole square into R by 2Fs. Okay. So, it depends on the duty ratio or the output voltage, it depends on the load resistance as well as switching frequency. So, once you calculate the critical inductance, take a 25% extra, then you can guarantee that the circuit operates in continuous conduction mode. Okay. So, the design of inductance has been discussed. Now, what is pending is the design of the filter capacitance. So, to do that, let us revisit the diagram. I am interested in this diagram, this one. Why? Because we are interested in calculating the charge dumped into the capacitor or charge taken out of the capacitor. Either way we can do, but finding an area of a rectangle is far more easier than finding the area of this kind of a shape. So, I am sticking on to this one. What is the area of the triangle? Which is nothing but the charge. See, y axis we have current, x axis we have time. So, I into t, the area under the curve is the product of current and time, which is nothing but the charge. Okay. So, what is the charge? It is a rectangle. One side, the horizontal, it is dTs, and what is the vertical? It is the average I0, because we are dragging I0 to the x axis. So, I0, and what is I0 is nothing but V0 by R to dTs, same. So, that is what is being done here. You see, we know delta Q, change in charge dumped or charge absorbed, is equal to I0 into dTs. This is the height, this is the base or the width of the rectangle. So, you multiply, you will get this one. So, delta Q is nothing but V0 into delta V0 into C. Solve, you will get delta V0 by V0 is equal to D by RCFS. So, thus the output voltage ripple depends on the duty ratio, or rather the output voltage. It also depends on the load resistor as well as the filter capacitance. It definitely depends on the switching frequency. Higher the switching frequency, you can afford to have a lower value of capacitance, okay, and vice versa. That is true for inductor also. If your frequency is higher, then you can go for a lower value of inductance. Your critical inductance will come down if you choose a higher switching frequency. Now, we have completed the design of buck boost converter. I am really sorry, this is not boost converter, this is buck boost converter. This lecture I am talking only about buck boost converter. Please excuse me for these mistakes I have done. Okay. So, the output voltage ripple is D by RCFS. Now, we have designed the inductor. How do we calculate the inductor? You calculate the critical value of the inductance or L minimum, choose 25% extra, then you can guarantee to be operating in continuous conduction mode. See, we have just now calculated. Okay. So, with L and C, choose a frequency greater than 20 kilohertz, so that it is not in the human audible frequency range. Higher the better. Higher frequency go up to the maximum frequency you can get. 50, 100 is a good choice. Even higher, now the newest devices, you can go even higher than that. Okay. So, let us do one numerical and wind up this session. it's not a design problem. A buck boost converter has the following parameters. Input voltage is 24 volt, okay. Duty ratio is 0.4, resistance is 5 ohms, L and C are 20 and 80 respectively, 100 kilohertz of switching frequency. Okay, determine the output voltage. So it's pretty simple. What is output voltage? Minus D by 1 minus D into V in. So it is minus 0.4 by 1 minus 0.4 is 0.6 into 24. So how much it would be? It would be minus 16 volt. See, the duty ratio is less than 0.5. The output voltage will be less than the input voltage. Input voltage is 24, output is 16. The moment it goes above 0.5, D is equal to, assume that D is equal to 0.6, then the output voltage will be more than the input voltage. When D is 0.5, then the output voltage will be equal to input voltage. Remember, the minus sign will be there, otherwise numerically they are equal. So this is the feature of, or the advantage of buck boost converter. You can get either voltage, less or more, is both way it is possible. Now we have calculated the output voltage. Now what is the inductor current average? Okay, average inductor current. We have a formula for that. Okay, we have just calculated it. You see, V in into D by R into 1 minus D square. V in into D by R into 1 minus D the whole square. If you are not comfortable remembering this formula, you can derive it also. Absolutely fine. If you understand the concept, you can derive any formula. Just to save some time, I am not going to the derivation once again. I am using the formula straight away. So input voltage is 24, D is 0.4, resistance of the load is given, yeah, it is 5 ohms, 1 minus 0.4 square. So I am getting 5.33 ampere, maximum and minimum values. Okay, so this is the average value. So what is IL max? Average plus half the ripple. Okay, so what is ripple? Ripple also we have calculated. V in dTs by L. Instead of Ts, I am taking it as switching frequency. So what is that? 24 is the input voltage, 0.4 is the duty ratio. Inductor value they have given as 20 microhenry. Switching frequency is 100 kilohertz. So let me do the ripple calculation. You will get 4.8 ampere. So the ripple is 4.8 ampere. Now what is IL max then? Average plus half the ripple. Average is 5.33 plus 2.4 then. So it would be 7.73 ampere. And what will be IL minimum? The average inductor current minus half the ripple. So exact same thing, this plus becomes minus then. It is 2.93 ampere. Okay, so IL max is 7.73 ampere and IL min is 2.93 ampere. So IL min is definitely more than 0. So this is a circuit is in continuous conduction mode. Anything more is asked? Maximum and minimum values of the current we have calculated. Output voltage ripple. Okay. So delta V0 by V0 is what they are asking us to calculate. D by RCFS. What is duty ratio? 0.4. Resistance value is 5. What is the capacitance value? They have given to be 80 microfarad. Okay. 80 microfarad into switching frequency is 100 kilohertz. So what will be the output? Yeah, 0.1 percentage. The answer is right. So the output voltage would be 0.1 percentage. So we have calculated all the questions asked. So this is how you calculate once the design is given. Okay, in a counter manner, we can also, given the specification that the input voltage is 24 volt, the output decide is say 16 minus 16 volt, design everything, then you can do the same design. Only thing, then the inductor will not be this high. we can afford to have a smaller inductance because the lowest current is 2.93. This, even if it is 0.25, it will still work. So we need, if needed, we can use a lower value of inductor. Instead of 20, it may be 15, may be enough. Similarly, if the output voltage ripple is now with an 80 microfarad capacitor, the output voltage ripple is 0.1%. If we can allow 1%, 10 times more, then the capacitance can be brought down just to 8 or 10 microfarad. Okay, so that's what I said. If you improve the value of inductor and capacitor, the ripple in current and voltage will reduce. So similarly, instead of using 100 kilohertz, if I go for 200 kilohertz, definitely this will come down. L and C both will come down. But then you will have to have a DSP or a dedicated processor which can produce 200 kilohertz and do all the calculation in a closed loop. So there is a trade-off between the maximum frequency you can use or the minimum size of the magnetic components. So this is how you design a buck boost converter. In the next lecture, we will see a special type of converter called the Chook converter, which is a fourth order converter, and we will see the silent features of that. Once we do that, we will go on and discuss the discontinuous conduction mode of these basic converters. Okay, so till this time we were calculating the critical value of inductance and choosing 25% extra with the aim of keeping the circuit in continuous conduction mode. What will happen if it is in DCM? We will see it in that lecture. Okay, thank you everyone.